I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine your company disappeared tonight. Not the customers, not the product or the brand or the knowledge you've accumulated or the relationships you've built, just the organization itself. The jobs, the departments, the processes, the management structure, the systems, the workflows, the way work moves from one person to another. And tomorrow morning, you have to rebuild it from scratch. But this time, you know everything you know now. And from the very beginning, you have access to people, AI agents, and systems as different forms of execution. Would you build the same company? Would you create the same jobs? Would you bundle the same responsibilities together or create the same departments and management layers? Would customers still wait because somebody isn't available? Would your best people still spend enormous amounts of time checking and chasing and updating and coordinating and moving information? Would growth still automatically trigger another round of hiring? Would you even organize the work the same way? For a lot of businesses, I suspect the answer is no. I can tell you it's a no from me. For the last several months, we've been doing this exact exercise inside my own company. And we are changing roles and changing processes and responsibilities and infrastructure and the way that work moves, the way people and AI agents participate in getting it done. Because I think this question gets to the heart of this entire series. Most of the AI conversations start somewhere else. They start with the technology. What can this model do? What can this agent automate? And what jobs could AI replace? And how much could we save? And which platform should we buy? And what's the best prompt to do this? And I get it. I understand why. The capabilities are extraordinary. But I think starting there, it causes us to approach the opportunity backwards. We take this new form of labor and we try to fit it into the company we already have. Here are our jobs and our departments and our processes and our systems. And now, where can we put the AI? But that assumes the business we built around the old constraints is still the business we should have under the new ones. And I don't think we should assume that. Our organizations developed in a world where people still were the primary source of intelligent execution. Somebody had to understand and decide and communicate and coordinate and remember and make sure the next thing happened. So we bundled work into jobs and then we grouped jobs into teams and then teams into departments. And we created managers to coordinate people. We built systems to store the information that they needed. And we created queues because people couldn't do everything at once. And we created handoffs between departments. And when the systems couldn't understand how the work should move, people became the connective tissue. And none of that was stupid. It was a totally rational response to the forms of labor that were available to us then. But something has changed. We now have another form of labor capable of intelligent execution, and that is AI agents. AI agents that can understand information, communicate and maintain context, exercise judgment and make decisions, and maintain relationships and monitor thousands of situations simultaneously. They can participate alongside people and systems in producing the outcomes. Now, that doesn't mean people disappear. It just means that one of the fundamental constraints around which we designed the organization has changed. And if the constraint changes, we should be willing to reconsider the structure built around it, which is why, strangely enough, I don't think this entire series has really been about AI. Now, I know that sounds pretty odd coming from somebody who wrote a book called The AI Workforce, but think about the questions we've actually been asking. What work needs to happen? What outcomes are we trying to produce? What responsibilities exist underneath the job titles, and who should own them? What decisions should they be able to make? Where should their authority begin and end? Which work should be executed by a person, by an AI agent? What should be living inside a system? And where should execution be shared? How should the work move? And how does context move with it? Where are people compensating for gaps in the infrastructure? And where is work waiting simply because somebody isn't available? Where are your best people spending capacity on work that doesn't really require them? Those aren't really AI questions. They're questions about how your business works. AI simply gave us a reason to ask them again. And that matters. That distinction matters because AI capability and organizational leverage are not the same thing. An AI agent might create 10 times the output, but if the next responsibility can only absorb the old volume, you haven't created 10 times the organizational value. You've created a bottleneck. An AI agent might operate 24 hours a day, but if the work eventually reaches something that requires somebody to press a button Monday morning, the business isn't operating 24 hours a day. The agent is. An agent might maintain context across thousands of relationships. But if that context disappears when the work moves to somebody else, continuity still breaks. An agent might create enormous additional capacity, but if every exception lands on one overwhelmed manager's desk, you've simply moved the constraint. That's the difference. Capability lives in the worker, but leverage lives in the organization. Two companies can have access to exactly the same AI capability and create completely different outcomes from it. Same models, same agents, same technology. One gets a little faster, automates some activities, reduces some cost, but the other changes the economics of how the organization operates. The difference isn't necessarily the AI, it's what they redesigned around it. And that is why I developed the labor architecture framework, not as a framework for implementing AI, but as a way of redesigning a business around the forms of labor now available to us. You start with the work. What outcome are we trying to produce? What responsibilities actually exist? What work needs to happen? What work only exists because of the way we've historically organized the company? And once you can see the work, you can think differently about execution. Then you define responsibility. What does somebody own? What decisions can they make? What information can they access? Where does their authority begin and end? When does another worker need to become involved? Then you design shared execution because the same outcome might involve a person, an AI agent, and a system. The question isn't, is this a human job or an AI job? It's, how should this work be executed? And then you build the infrastructure that lets all of those workers operate together. The work arrives, someone executes, then it either completes or it moves. And if it moves, the context has to move with it. The next worker needs to know what happened, what changed, what decisions were made, what commitments exist, the current state, and what they now need to do. And when those things begin to come together, the economics change. Not because we started with how much money can AI save us, but because we redesigned the architecture that produces the economics. Growth and headcount start becoming less tightly coupled. Capacity expands beyond the team. consistency becomes more structural, and the finite capacity of your people can become concentrated around the work where their particular contribution creates the greatest value. Those, those are significant economic changes. But notice where they came from. Not a prompt, not a model, not an agent platform. They came from redesigning the organization. And I think that's where the real opportunity sits. Over the next several years, companies are going to buy increasingly capable AI. Some of them will be disappointed, not because the AI isn't good enough, but because they'll keep putting 21st century labor into organizational structures built around 20th century, even 19th century constraints. They'll add agents to existing workflows and they'll automate existing processes. They'll insert AI into existing jobs, and some of that will create value. But I think the companies that get the greatest leverage will go further. They'll ask, should this workflow still exist? Should these responsibilities still sit inside the same job? Does this department boundary still make sense? Is this management layer solving a problem the new architecture still has? Does this queue need to exist? Does this customer need to wait? Does a person need to carry this context? Does growth really need another hire? In other words, they won't simply ask how AI fits into the company. They'll ask, what kind of company becomes possible because AI exists? That's a much bigger question. And there's another reason architecture matters. The AI is going to keep changing. The model you're excited about today will eventually be replaced by something more capable. Agents will improve. Capabilities that seem extraordinary today will eventually become ordinary. So I don't want to design a company around the capabilities of one model in 2026. I want to design a company that can continually absorb new forms of execution as those capabilities evolve. If you understand the work, you can reconsider how it should be executed. If responsibility is properly bounded, different workers can participate without the organization losing control. If execution can be shared, you don't need to create a permanent division between people and AI agents. If your infrastructure can move work and context, the workforce can evolve without people constantly rebuilding the connective tissue. That is a much more durable AI strategy than everybody needs to learn this tool. Because the tool isn't the strategy, the model isn't the strategy, the agent isn't the strategy, the business is the strategy. Which brings me back to the question that we started. If your company disappeared tonight and you had to rebuild it tomorrow, would you build the same company? Knowing that people are no longer the only source of intelligent execution, knowing that AI agents can carry real responsibility, knowing that people, AI agents, and systems can share execution, knowing that work can move without somebody manually carrying it, knowing that growth doesn't necessarily have to create proportional headcount, and knowing that your most valuable people can potentially spend far more of their capacity on the work where their contribution creates disproportionate value. At that point, would you create the same jobs, the same departments, the same workflows, the same management structures, the same infrastructure? Maybe some of it you would. This isn't about tearing your company apart simply because AI exists. It's about becoming willing to see your company as something that was designed and therefore something that can be redesigned. The structure you have today isn't inevitable. It is the product of thousands of decisions made under a particular set of constraints. Some of those constraints still exist, but some don't. And some have changed significantly. So maybe this series was never really about AI. AI is the catalyst. AI labor is the new form of execution. But the opportunity, that's organizational. And that is ultimately what the AI workforce is about. If you've watched this entire series and want to go deeper into the thinking, I wrote the book, The AI Workforce, to lay out the argument in much more detail and to show how the pieces fit together. But I also wanted this to be something businesses could actually apply. So I built the labor architecture system to help you examine your own company, uncover the work underneath the jobs and processes, map the responsibilities, and think through execution. Start designing what your workforce could look like under these new conditions. You can find both, along with the framework and more of my work, at thefutureworkforce.ai. But whether you read the book, use the system, or simply take this question back into your next leadership meeting, I'd encourage you not to finish this series by asking, what AI agent should we buy next? Start with the business. Look at the work. Look at the responsibilities. Look at where work waits, where context disappears, where people are holding the organization together, where growth creates headcount, where your best people are spending their finite capacity. And then ask yourself the question that sits underneath this entire series. If I started this business today, knowing what is now possible, would I build the same company? And if the answer is no, what would you build instead?